Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I am the two-time, Boxed Award-winning The Boxed. And just a few days ago, I did the 1999 Royal Rumble review. And just in time for the 2021 Royal Rumble, I'm going to do one more, going back 10 years further to 1989. From the Royal Rumble Anthology, there's the second ever Royal Rumble from 1989. Now, I forgot to write down where it was. This is what we have Wikipedia for, and Google and other things. So feel free to go look up where it was. And I'm going to get right down to business. The opening match on this card was best 2 out of 3 falls. It was a 6-man tag match between Dino Bravo and the Rougeau brothers against Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Hart Foundation. So, right, and this was like, and for this match, it was actually a really good, very good start because the crowd was really into it. You had the Rougeaus, Bravo, who were all billed as Canadian. Bret Hart was also Canadian, but he was wrestling with Neidhart and Duggan, who are American. And well, back then, Jim Duggan was actually his place on the card was that sort of like a mid-card Hulk Hogan type character. So yeah, that was actually. But yeah, you had that opening match, and the crowd was really into it, which always helps the match when the crowd is enjoying it and is getting into it and doing USA chants when both guys in the ring are Canadian. But this would happen during Bret, like when Bret was in the ring. And whenever that happens, it's usually the crowd trying to annoy the heels. And there was a spot where you had Bravo and both Rougeaus in the corner, and Bret and Duggan were helping Anvil sort of do the shoulder tackles in the turnbuckle, and they actually, things like this I miss on commentary when they actually make short notes of things like Neidhart being a nose tackle and just like doing little things to help sell what the guy is doing when it looks like it's probably not doing a whole lot. Like, obviously, we're all smart and we know what's going on, like what's really going on. And I would hope that none of us would want them to suffer any long injuries. But sometimes things can just look a little weak, and it's nice to hear the commentary team try to put in a few notes, put in a few things like that to help sell what's going on. And in this match, Team Bravo gets the first fall, and then Duggan gets the second fall on them, and then Hart gets the third fall after Duggan used a 2x4, and so Team Hart Foundation and Duggan ends up winning the match. Pretty good opener. Again, the crowd really helped with them being into it. And yeah, it was actually a fairly entertaining match. And the second match was actually a super pose down between Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior. Now, this pretty much goes exactly the way that you would expect it to go. This was a fan reaction based one where the crowd cheers for who they want to win. Rude's a heel. Warrior's a babyface. Heenan tries to suck up to the crowd to get them to cheer for Rude, but it doesn't work. Everyone votes for the Ultimate Warrior. And the poses that they did was double bicep, best abs, most muscular, and medley of poses. Warrior gets the votes on all of them, and then Rick Rude attacks after everything's been voted. Of course, this was part of their feud that they had going on. You do these sort of things. This was back before you had Monday Night Raw and the monthly shows like Armageddon, Elimination Chamber, yada yada yada. You only had about 4 pay-per-views a year at this time, and this was shortly into that period, because before it was just WrestleMania, and then you added the Royal. First it was Survivor Series that came out in '87, and then '88 was the first Royal Rumble, and then the first SummerSlam after WrestleMania was in between there. So that's how these pay-per-views started, and then of course, eventually you got the In Your House pay-per-views, and then you eventually got the pay-per-view a month thing back in the days, back in the 90s. Yeah, I know, I'm old. So yeah, it was actually interesting to see them devote a pose down onto a pay-per-view, when nowadays that's the stuff that you would put on Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown or NXT or in AEW on the AEW's weekly show. Dynamite, is it? I'm sorry, I'm kind of out of touch with what's going on nowadays. I'll put that up there, see if it changes the lighting. So, yeah, I feel like it served its purpose. You know, nowadays, just the way it was, you'd kind of, like, snicker at it. But the thing is, you probably wouldn't do these things nowadays because you don't have a lot of guys with that physique. Because you don't have, like, a lot of Ultimate Warriors or Rick Rudes nowadays, you know, it's just... The guys are a lot more smaller and more athletic than they were. The guys are a lot smaller and a lot more athletic than they were 20, 30 years ago. So, on to the next match. You had the Women's Championship between Rockin' Robin and Judy Martin, with Rockin' Robin defending her championship. And before this match, Sensational Sherry comes in and says that she wants in on this match. Or she doesn't want in on this match. She wants to challenge whoever wins, because she was a previous champion. And she wanted to challenge whoever was going to win that match. And honestly, that was more noteworthy than anything that happened in this match. Now, say what you want about both generations, but the girls who are performing now, and even the girls who came in the 90s and the 2000s, like the Trish Stratus's, the Litas, they did a lot more stuff than these two. And just like, well, that's just the way it was at the time. And I do not mean to shit on Rockin' Robin or on Judy Martin. Just, you know, the ladies have come a long way over the past 32 years. So, this was a pretty forgettable match. Rockin' Robin defends her championship. And Sherry was on commentary. I feel like that she actually said a little bit more than the wrestlers, which is kind of sad. And then you have, in the next match, you have King Haku versus Harley Race with the crown on the line. Harley Race was a former king. Haku was the reigning king at this time. And Bobby Heenan was doing his weasel thing where he was cheering for whoever was in control during the match. Before the match, Harley Race comes in and he throws King Haku off of the chair, because they had the 4 guys carrying the platform with the throne on it, and with Haku was sitting in his own chair and he was being carried to the ring by 4 men. So that's kind of something that I feel like is missing. When you have that sort of devotion to character that you just don't see nowadays. Because a lot of the guys are so focused on in-ring performances that they don't really focus on what they're doing like before the match or after the match or during the week between shows. You don't get that character development, and this is the sort of thing where like even it's like leading into the match you have a guy being carried in, and then you have the former king, Harley Race, he's coming in and he's basically doing like a being upset about it, and like, no, I'm gonna throw you off your chair. Yeah, and then going back, yeah, he actually did. Harley Race did a pile driver on the outside to Haku. So this was back in the day when guys were still allowed to do pile drivers. This was before SummerSlam '97 with Steve Austin and Owen Hart, and you could do, and they had more leeway to do certain moves that they didn't, that they're not allowed to do nowadays. And that's just to show how much more we've discovered about concussions than we did 32 years ago. So both of them actually did moves off the top rope that missed. And the reason why this is noteworthy for me, because again, this was back in the day when you had a lot bigger men in the ring. So you did not see the high risk maneuvers that you're used to seeing nowadays. So it was always a little bit more special when a Harley Race or a Haku went up to the top rope, because it was that important to them to try to win the match. And then eventually, Haku did get the win when Race came off the ropes, went to do something, and Haku just gave the thrust kick before Race could do anything. So yeah, decent match. Nothing overtly special, but again, it's not. When you have two guys like Harley Race and Haku who are legends to varying degrees. You know, especially, I'd probably say Harley Race is a little bit more of a legend than Haku. And Haku's probably going to try to come beat me up for it, but oh well. I'm allowed to have an opinion, even though it'll probably get my ass kicked. Yeah, and that was the match. And then finally, you had the 1989 Royal Rumble. I'm skipping through the various promo segments because none of them were really that important, but it was nice to see, like, say, 30 to 60 second interviews hyping up the Royal Rumble, just to make it feel, because this was, again, the second ever Royal Rumble, so it really wasn't as established as it is nowadays. So this was back, like, in the early days of the Royal Rumble. So again, looking back, this was before the days when you really paid a lot of attention to things like the Iron Man, which is the guy who lasts the longest in the Rumble, and then you have the Final Four, and whoever makes the most eliminations, yada yada yada. So I remember in this one, Mr. Perfect had the Iron Man streak. I think Hulk Hogan, but had the most eliminations. I'll have to go back and check. And we'll get to the Final Four in a couple minutes, but first, you had Axe and Smash of Demolition starting the match off at 1 and 2, and they went at it right away. Now, I like this because it shows it's an every man for himself match. This was with the Royal Rumble being such a new concept at the time. Again, this was the second one. It was great in establishing that it was an every man for himself concept. And again, this was before you had the WrestleMania main event on the line. Yeah, so it was just like a bragging rights sort of thing. So you actually had the tag team champions. I think Demolition was the tag champs at the time. I'll have to go back and double check. And you also had the Macho Man was in this match. He was a WWF champion at this time. And for what may well be an unpopular opinion, I feel like this Royal Rumble had much more star power than the 1999 Rumble. And I actually like this Rumble better than the 99 Rumble because 99 felt more like a plot device for the McMahon-Austin storyline, whereas the 89 Rumble actually felt like a Royal Rumble. And going back to what I said about the star power, no, you didn't quite have the guys who were that big stars in 99 as you did in 89 who were in the Rumble. In 89, you had Andre the Giant, you had Jake the Snake Roberts, you had Macho Man Randy Savage, you had Shawn Michaels, Mr. Perfect, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Hulk Hogan, the Bushwhackers, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Big John Studd, the model Rick Martel. The Big Boss Man was actually in this one as well as the 99 Royal Rumble. And the Boss Man was actually like when the second to last eliminated in 99. And it was amazing to see the difference in his gimmick. Because in 89, it was more of a cop gimmick. Whereas, like, more of like a crooked cop gimmick. Whereas in 99, he was more of just like a prison guard type thing. So, like, I know they're all along the same vein, but in 99, it was more of like that, what you would see in the actual prison type thing. That's just how it struck me. But yeah, it's actually kind of fun to see, to kind of notice that evolution over a 10-year period. Now, he was heel, I think he was heel in 89. But I definitely remember him being heel in 99. But yeah, just kind of funny to see the different ring gear that he had for each Rumble. And in 99, I honestly feel like Austin and Vince are probably the two biggest stars in the 99 Royal Rumble. You know, it's only like a few days. I only recorded that review a few days later, and no one else really stuck out in the Rumble match itself. So yeah, it's kind of funny to look back and realize that. So I mentioned Andre the Giant. He was the third guy in, and Axe and Smash teamed up against him, and you had Jake the Snake come in, who was doing his own, who had his feud with Andre the Giant. Jake the Snake came in at number 7, and part of what they did was, part of how this was at the time, you would use a Royal Rumble to branch off different storylines. And you actually had that more in this one. Again, you had Jake bring Damien down to scare Andre out of the ring. You had Hulk Hogan eliminate the Macho Man Randy Savage. And that was used to build up to the WrestleMania 5 match for the championship. Again, this was before there was the main event on the line, so the champion would come in and wrestle in the Royal Rumble. And I had to kind of snicker at what Ventura was saying, because it was Jesse the Body Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon on commentary. And Ventura said, Hulk Hogan will stoop to any level to win. He'd clothesline a woman if it meant winning. And I had to laugh at that one because, well, like, there's a certain amount of truth to that, given his reputation for politics. That, yeah, it's like, you always kind of wonder how much Hogan would politic, especially back in those days. He was politicking up until well into the 2000s too. Like, think about Shawn Michaels and Hogan at SummerSlam 2005. Oh, but that just cracked me up so much. So eventually we did get down to the final four that I was talking about. You had Rick the Model Martel, Hakeem, Big John Studd, and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. And for me, Hakeem kind of feels like the odd man out in this one. But again, this was before people really paid attention and people really cared about who the final four people in the match was, because the Royal Rumble was not yet established. So eventually, Big John Studd eliminates Hakeem and Ted DiBiase. And yeah, that's how the 1989 Royal Rumble went. I actually kind of like this one better than the 1999 Rumble. Actually, overall, both the card and the Rumble match itself. If you like it, if you don't like my opinion, then spout out down below in the comments section. Tell me that you think that my opinion is worthless. Because I know that there's a lot of Attitude Era lovers out there, and I grew up with the Attitude Era, but looking back at both WrestleManias, I enjoyed 89 more. So, thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I am the two-time the Boxer Award-winning The Boxer. And I hope the 2021 Royal Rumble is worth watching. Bye, everyone!